How did you get into this in the first place? You said that you were a producer beforehand, but now you're obviously on air, right? So how did that even come to be?
I mean, I was in the business for a while. I was a writer and a producer I had no want to be on air. I hated people that were on air. I hated the jobs at the time. Because in Canada at the time, these shows didn't exist. Fun TV really didn't exist. If you wanted to be on air, you were doing news. And I didn't want to be a reporter in the news. I'd already worked in news and written for news for a long time, and the idea of it didn't interest me. The idea of being on the news had no interest in me. And then I went through some serious life stuff. Lost the job, and my dad died, and my marriage was falling apart, and all this stuff. And then when I kind of came out the other side, I was out of work and trying to rebuild everything, and then I had just made the decision to have fun. And I started taking fun jobs. I went back to radio, but a different kind of radio, and I started, kind of having fun, still working hard and doing great content, but on a little bit more of an entertainment side where you were the entertainers as opposed to covering entertainment. And then I got there was a television station that was just starting in Toronto, and I went down to interview to produce this show, this late night show that they were doing, and I didn't get the job. But they asked me if I wanted to come back and audition for it. And at that time, I made the decision that if I said no to auditioning to being on a television show, my future life as a producer, I would no longer be allowed to shit on people that were on television. Exactly. Because I was given the opportunity to try and do something a little different. And so I said yes. And then that's when I was 29, I was over 29, 29 and a half, almost 30. And then that's when I decided to do on air. And then everything just from there, kind of my new life in this business became on air as opposed to writing and producing.
Way back when you were a kid, did you ever think that this would be something that you would be doing?
No, because it didn't exist. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It didn't exist. There was no path. There was no anything. These shows didn't exist. Show business in Canada really didn't exist, and the ones that did were very, very niche, and there was nothing sort of big and flashy and fun with a staff that people give a shit about. It just wasn't around. So it wasn't an opportunity. Like, it wasn't a goal because I didn't think it would ever be an opportunity.
You must have been watching shows, growing up, thinking like, did you ever think when you saw someone on air, oh, maybe I would want to do that? No. Never crossed your mind?
No, I wanted to be a rock star. You
wanted to perform?
Yeah, but then I have terrible stage fright. So I was in bands my whole life growing up, but I could just never play live because I can't do a stage.
Okay.
I can't do an audience.
That's funny because you have how many people listening to you every single day,
sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm. That's different though.
That's a different type
It's
of
a different
audience.
thing. Yeah.
You can handle something like that.
Yeah, because the difference is that 22 people is terrifying. 700,000 people is not terrifying. 700,000 people is easy. Yeah. 22 people is terrifying.
Getting up to do something like MC something.
Would never.
Event.
Don't do it.
Don't do it?
Nope. No. I've done it very, very rarely. I won't even MC my best friend's wedding. No.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it, and I'm not very good at it. I think that in this business, and when it comes to hosting or public speaking, there are people that are amazing at it. I'm just not good at it, and I when I see people that are great at it, I'm in awe. It's a real skill. It's just not for me. And I could, being in the position that I'm in, I could probably make a lot of money. Hosting events, and it's just not worth it for me. The stress is not worth it. It's like a weekend ruiner. Once those dates, the times that I've done it in the past, they start creeping up on me, and I get terrified.
Do you think it's because you're hard on yourself?
No, and and it's funny. It's not about nervous because I don't get nervous. When you're doing like a television show or radio show, when people are listening, I don't get nervous. I get worried. Nervous would be if nobody's going to listen. People listen, so I get worried that I'm just going to let them down. That's where the stress and the drive comes from. It doesn't come from nerves and will people listen. Once people listen, you just don't want to let them down. When somebody gives you their time, you don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
But I can't stand on a stage.
Like, you're really, especially on your radio show, you're very honest, blunt, straight to the point. Has that always been something you were able to do?
No. No.
Or even allowed to do?
No, in my real life, sure, you know, but I've never been, you know, I you know, different people who have had this job before, you know, they take there's a certain philosophy that comes with, you know, what you find entertaining and what you think people are going to latch onto. For me, I think people confuse perspective and opinion far too often. I don't play in a world of opinion. I play in a world of perspective. It's far more interesting. I think that when you're giving your opinion, it is yours and yours alone, and that's fine. Like, it's really, really fine, because there's some people that have made very successful careers built on opinion. I prefer to give perspective. I prefer to rationalize. I prefer to break something apart and tell you why that exists, or why that is happening, or why that person did what they did. And with perspective, you give it to somebody, and then somebody who may not know a whole lot about a topic can then take your perspective and bring it to work and win an argument, you know, with people, because it's not just your opinion. You know, when you give somebody perspective, it's sort of universal. You know, it's something that somebody can then take and then use. And I like to live in the world of perspective as opposed to opinion. And that took a lot of, you know, looking at things differently. Every single story I do, every time I tell a story, it's, you know, how is this, you know, relatable, or how is this polarizing? Because I don't care which way I go. You know, I just never sit in the middle. And it's kind of a new way of, you know, it's a new way of thinking. The old way in radio used to be, you know, never give your opinion and give the information and let your audience decide. Yeah. That was always the philosophy.
That's a journalism practice.
You know, it's a journalism practice. I'm not a journalist, though. Yeah. You know, so I work on a 1 in 10 scale with the show and everybody who works on the show. You know, if you sort of don't like something, I need you to hate it. And if you sort of like something, I need you to love it. And there's no sitting in the middle. There's absolutely no fence sitting on the show, because it's boring. You know, passionate people are entertaining people. And I need passion constantly from people, no matter what the topic is. It could be something completely ridiculous, but I need you to be a 1 or I need you to be a 10. Everything is a 1 or a 10, and I need you to be that way. You know, there is no 5. There's no 5. There is no, I don't know, what do you think? There's none of that. That does not exist. And I think that is, you know, that is what forces other people to form their own opinion. You know, when you hear these extremes, you know, the 1s and 10s when it comes to any topic there is, you know, you then gravitate towards one or the other, as opposed to just forgetting what they said. Because if somebody sits in the middle, it's very forgettable.
Do you ever find that, like, they kind of encourage you to alter your opinion, or...
This is a different show. This show is not it's a format. You know, it would be like, you know, I'm trying to think of what the equivalent would be in other genres. It's like a really fantastic studio musician who one day plays on a metal album and then one day plays on a country album. You know, you learn to work a format. If you're going to be professional in this business and you want to be on TV, you learn to work a format, whether it jives with what you like personally or not. You know, I just like working on good-looking television that people watch. I could go and do, when I was younger, some indie rock show on some station that nobody would watch, but that's not what I wanted to do. I want to work on television that is good-looking television, that has insane production value, and that people actually watch. So it's a format, you know, and the views expressed on this show are not necessarily mine. You know, when I read a teleprompter, I have not written those words on the teleprompter. The art of television comes from having people think that those are my own words and my own thoughts. So I don't mind this show. I don't mind if I'll take direction on this show. You know, it's a different kind of show. Yeah. You know, this is their voice. This is the ET Canada voice. Yeah. You know, and I am here to perpetuate that voice and philosophy. You're allowed to be yourself, and there's certain things I won't say, and there's certain things I just think are weird to have a guy like me say. But other than that, it really is a format, you know. And I think that, you know, part of, you know, being in this business is being able to adapt and being able to work a format.
Was that something you kind of had to learn though along the way, like, because I find you have such strong, you know, perspectives on things?
Yeah, I know, you learn it. It's fine. Yeah, it's cool. You know, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, it really doesn't. You know, it's television, and that's what TV is. You know, there's, you know, you get scripts and you get this and you get that. It's fine. You know, it's part of the job.
Okay. And, you know, with shows like this, they always say you kind of have to have, like, an age factor. Do you think you have one of those?
I don't know.
Do you agree with that statement?
Like, as a person? Yeah.
Kind of like building your own brand kind of thing. Do you agree with that kind of idea?
Yeah. that building your own brand and you as being the brand is sort of a new observation to something that has been around for a long time. People just weren't fucking obnoxious about it like they are today. Everybody has a brand, which I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You don't have a brand. You're not. But I think it's a very sort of weird way to look at people. It's what we, back in the day, nobody wanted to be just a number. Nobody wanted to sort of fit in. You all wanted to be individual. But now, you have everybody that all have the same brand. It's a brand of person, and it kind of bothers me a little bit. But I think as far as like it factor goes, I think it's a real thing. I don't believe when people say that, you look at some superstars or, insane musicians or whatever it may be, the idea that they're just normal is not true. They are special. They're special in the sense that they have something that people want to watch or people want to listen to. Not everybody has that. They used to call it a gift, when somebody was able to sing that well because they didn't want to say special. They used to call it a gift. But it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. The people that are extremely successful have something that other people don't. They also lack a lot of stuff, like self-confidence, that a lot of other people have. So, so it goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time in the studio when we were working in there, you said something about, I don't know if this is a quote exactly, but in TV, you just can't be genuine as regards to like being on air.
Yeah, you can. You can be genuine, but I think that you don't want to be yourself. I think being yourself is weird. Because it's impossible to be natural. The worst advice anybody could ever give you is to be natural because they're asking you. They're asking you to be natural in the most unnatural situation alive, which is you're wearing clothes that aren't yours, you're saying words that aren't yours, you're being filmed, and you're trying to act like a best friend with somebody that you've never met before. It is the most unnatural situation. So you have to find a way to sort of create this thing that is as close to being natural as you can, but it's not you.
How did you learn to do that? What do you think?
Through interviews. Interviews is what did I. Interviews came very easy to me. The studio stuff came second. So I was always interviewing before I was doing like links and stuff like that. Yeah, interviewing, because that's where you build a comp. That is the thing that terrifies people the most. Sitting in front of somebody and talking to them and trying to get information out of them. That's what would like terrify people. That's when you're like writing all this stuff down and they're fucking up and they're not making a connection. Well, that never terrified me because I was just never terrified of the people that we were interviewing. And so when that happened, everything else was fine. Once I realized that I was like good at interviewing, everything else was just skills. It's just skills. It's not talent. Yeah. After that, it's just developing skills and learning from people and figuring out who you like and copying what they do and stuff like that.
Is there someone that you still do that?
No. It was really a collective. It was just it would always be something small that I would see a way that somebody stood or. A way that they paused, or just it was always little things. It was a bunch of tiny little things that I just saw over the years that I liked, and then you just sort of take all those and use them as your own.
Because I'm studying journalism, right? So I'm kind of used to coming up with the idea, producing, executing it, researching. But a lot of that is kind of producer's role here. But at the same time, they're also often creating the questions that you may be asking to the person you're interviewing. Do you find that you have say in what you're going to actually ask that person?
100%.
Yeah.
I have, not everybody.
Yeah.
When we do interviews in the studio, I've never read a question off a teleprompter.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
Because I just don't like to. I don't like reading other people. I mean, it's my interview. It's for your show, but it's my interview. And that's the way that things usually go. Before I go into an interview, I'll usually talk to whoever the producer is, and I'll say, what do you need? And what do you want? I will get you what you need, and then I'll try and get you what you want. And then everything, but it's my way of getting it. So how I get there, the questions I ask, everything else, it's mine.
When you go on location as well?
Anywhere.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anywhere.
So what do you do in order to prep for something like that?
I cram. I don't know a lot about the people that we talk to on a daily basis. I don't follow this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a super fan.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting and it's fine. People seem to like it, but I'm not a super fan because I think being a super fan of anything, if that is your business, it becomes too inside. It's like sports. I find sometimes when I'm watching sports, I'm a huge hockey fan, but these guys, they're just so in way too deep into that business. I find their interviews and their shows and their programming completely unrelatable, and I'm a fan, and they're still way too inside. So I don't like to do that. I don't like to go into interviews from that point. I don't like it when somebody interviews somebody and they're a huge fan. I find it annoying. I don't like fawning and that stuff. They're not your friends. I don't want to hang out with them. They're work to me. An interview is work, and so I cram. I learn as much as I possibly can. Just from the more on the emotional side of things with somebody, and then I write everything down. And then I take another piece of paper and I take everything that I've written down and I shorten it down. And then I take another piece of paper and I do one-word reminders for everything that I wrote on the first piece of paper. And then I take I take that last piece of paper and I fold it up and I put it in my pocket, and then I never take it out. By the end of it, I go in with nothing.
But you have the information of what you know about them generally.
No, I know where I'm going to go with it.
I know
where I'm going to go.
So where do you go?
That's more important.
Yeah. Where do you go when you first start researching? What are your kind of steps to just gather?
I try and find interviews that were done by people who are smarter than I am.
Like who?
I don't even know half the time. I don't even know who's doing the interview half the time. Like a great print interview, like from years ago. Even I'll go back into archives. Just something. Somebody who was just very well written. Like I like that. I like when somebody is able to do that in print, where they can sort of sum up a person. Because oftentimes they've spent a lot of time with these people. You go back and read old Rolling Stone interviews that somebody's done with some of these stars, and they were with them for a week. So they really get a good handle on that, where we don't have that luxury. So I'll always go for, from reading other people's interviews. I try not to read too much into the interviews, because I don't want to be influenced one way or another on if I wanted to go in a certain direction with an interview. If I realize somebody else has done that, it'll throw me off a little bit. So I just read the essence of what they, what it was that they got, and I like that. I like reading, smart things that smart people have written about, fairly dumb topics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because this is your work and you're doing top 40 and big Hollywood names at the same time, but at the same time you say you don't really follow these people and you're not fans per se. So do you still kind of feel the need to stay current with the stuff that you are, talking about every day?
No, especially on the radio show it's different, because on the radio show you have the option of being blissfully ignorant or the person who is completely plugged in. And I will choose to be blissfully ignorant as opposed to the person who's plugged in, because if I'm blissfully ignorant, I can ask questions. If I try and come off as the person who is in the know, I have to come off like I know everything. And I choose to not do that.
Because that's really impossible.
I don't want to be the person who knows everything. I don't think that's fun to listen to. I like when somebody forgets the name of a huge movie star. I find that entertaining. I like it. I like listening to people that seem like they have flaws, or that they're not a super fan of the genre. They don't fawn over people. That's sort of the perspective that I have on things.
That's really interesting. I like that a lot, because I find that's kind of something like people with my age kind of battle. Like they feel like they need to know. Even in news.
Okay. This is a piece of advice that I was given years ago was, whatever your topic is. So in this case, it's show business, which is a very broad topic. It's not like municipal politics or hockey or whatever. You're talking general show business. So it's the whole world of show business. I always use 60% as the guide, which is take everything you know about a topic or a person or a story or the history of anything, all your knowledge that you have on that one thing that you're going to be talking about, never go above 60% of what you know when you're talking about it. Because what will wind up happening is you will talk yourself out of the topic. You will have nothing left to say. You will have no further insight onto something. You won't be able to take something that somebody else says who's maybe a little bit smarter than you. You won't be able to carry it forward any. If you max yourself out, you put yourself in a corner. So if you're doing entertainment, if you're doing like entertainment radio or television where it's all about you and it's your perspective, never max yourself out.
Who told you that piece of advice?
Always hold on to something.
Who told you that?
I don't remember the person's name, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but
To be honest with you, it was one of those things that somebody said,
it just sticks
and
with you.
it just stuck with you. Yeah, yeah.
Do you find? I find that one thing is that like because technology is out of control now, you're kind of like expected sometimes to know the things that you're talking about because it's accessible. You can put it in front
Sure.
of your phone.
But you can talk about anything. If you're a smart person, you can talk about anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just about getting a handle on it. You know, it's about, you can read anything. It can be a topic, you know, when the Olympics roll around or when whatever is happening. If you're a person who, you know, you can break something down, you know, and find the perspective on it, like find what it is about a story that people want to hear about or want to talk about. You can do it with any topic, you know, but it's just constantly doing that over and over and over again with everything. With everything, you know.
Do you find with a position like this that does it age? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you ever feel like you may be too old for this kind of thing?
No.
Do you have to grow with it?
No, because somebody will tell you when you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happens then?
You lose another job.
Do you have anything else that you would like to be working on or
No,
trying out?
I don't plan for the future.
You don't plan for the future at all?
No.
One step at a time.
No, that's too stressful.
Yeah.
I don't plan for the future.
Anything on the bucket list?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope.
Nothing
No.
you really want to do, like any outside of.
No. No, I don't do that. I don't. I like daily indulgence.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah.
And even when you were like 10 and you're like, I wanna.
Yeah, but I was stupid when I was 10. You know, I wanted to touch a boob when I was 10. You know, that was done. Check that off my bucket
11.
list. Yeah, I did have a bucket list at one time. It was not getting caught buying condoms, touching a boob, all this other stuff, and you know, you check them off.
All of them by 13.
Getting my driver's license is on my bucket
Okay.
list. That's on my
you don't
bucket
have
list.
it?
I don't have a driver's license. So if you're asking what is on my bucket list, getting a driver's license is
Will you
on my
actually
bucket
do it,
list.
though?
Yeah, yes, I will.
You're from a small town, right?
Very, yeah.
Yeah. What was that like growing up there?
Fantastic. It
What was
gives-
the population?
When I was there,
Yeah.
I don't know, like 12,000, something like that. Growing up in a small town is, it's good. I always say it teaches you how to treat people, because you can't be a dick, because your dad's going to find out about it to anybody.
Yeah.
You
for
know,
sure.
so it teaches you how to treat people. Yeah.
And how close was it to Toronto?
About an hour.
Did you go to the city?
No.
No?
Twice in my whole time growing
Really?
up. Yeah.
Did you see yourself living here ever?
Yeah, of course. That's
Yeah,
a great thing about a
that's what
small
you
town.
want.
It gives you this drive to get
Yeah.
the fuck out of the small town.
I hear ya, PEI. So
Yeah.
it's a tight
yeah.
one.
And people from small towns they're a little bit different than people that aren't.
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Are you interested in doing interviews outside of show business, Hollywood?
Like what?
Just like like human interest, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did
I'll
you
interview
ever-
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like interviewing people. I'll interview anybody.
When's the last time you kind of did an interview like that?
Here, we've done stuff like that
Yeah.
before. We've done stories like that before, you know? Yeah, it's fine. It's good. Interviewing's interviewing. Doesn't matter who it is. I just like interviewing. That's really what it comes down to. Doesn't really matter. I have to go and do a VO. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you get enough?
Yeah, I just had one more question, but
What is your last
I
question?
was just kind of curious. Now that I had my foot in the door here,
Mhm.
what's your advice for the youngins?
Like
me?
your advice to learn, like to get work?
To get work.
It's a tough one. It's a really, because there's no one path in order to get work, right? There's no one way to do it. The advice that I would give to anybody is the same piece of advice that I give to everybody, which is be the absolute best writer you can be.
Writer.
Yeah, writers are usually in a situation like this, a show like this, and it's happened. The stronger writers are the ones who stay the longest, because if you're a strong writer, you can do 5 jobs on a show like this. If you're a shit writer, but you're a good host, when we have too many hosts and you suck at writing stories, or you suck at this, you know, you'll be the one gone, and the person who's the better writer will usually be the one to stay. And that's the same thing for news, and that's the same thing for everybody.
That's
You know,
where it all breaks down to.
The best writers, and I sucked at writing when I was young. I was the worst writer. I learned how to write late in life. But yeah, that's the one piece of advice is, and it doesn't matter what you're doing in television or in radio, it will help you be a better communicator. It will help you be a better interviewer. It will help you be a better everything, which is to be the best writer that you can be in all different styles.
Thank you.
You got it.
I appreciate
You got
it.
everything?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Nice. Of course. My pleasure. So is today your last day?
Today is my last day.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Hit me up on Facebook if you have any questions, okay?
Cool, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.